old friend is currently the minister in the king's palace. So he went to see him. He reminded him of his childhood days when they were friends. And he said, I want to marry the king's daughter. Is there a way? And he said, oh, do you have any wealth? He said, no. Do you have the status? He said, no. Any position? He said, no. He said, then it's impossible. He said, but you are my friend. You have to think of a way. You have to come up with a plan. You need to help me. So after thinking, he said, there's only one way. He said, what is that way? He said, the king likes Zahid people. And the king likes Arif people, those who have left this dunya. This is again the wrong concept of Zuhud, leaving this dunya and staying in a cave. This is the wrong concept of Zuhud. But that king, like he was impressed with people who left this dunya. He said the king likes and is impressed with Zahids of his time. So every 6 months he pays a visit to a Zahid. So if you can be one of them, if you can be one of them, the king will come to visit you. And every time the king leaves, ends the visit, he asks the Zahid for a request. Whatever request you have, I'll fulfill it. So at that time, we will come up with a way of getting you related to the king. So he said, okay, fine. He was after the dunya, he was after marriage, so he said, fine. So he started living in a cave. He started dieting to lose his weight, to become skinny. Started praying on a stone to have that mihrab on the forehead. And after a few days, he became famous. People learned that there's a new Arif in town, and he's spending all his time in ibadat. He's not concerned with this dunya, and then they were really impressed, and his fame reached the king, and the king decided to pay a visit to him. So when the king was about to visit, his friend came to him and to set up the plan. So he said, the king is going to come and visit you. He's going to talk to you. Don't get excited. Don't get overexcited and spoil the whole 6 months of your effort. And when the king is, so be calm, just reply with Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, Subhanallah. And when the king is leaving, he will ask you if I can be of any help to you, if I can favor you. And at that time, just say that, I don't need anything from the king except that if he can establish a tie with me and establish links with me, it is going to be in his benefit. And just say that, and then I'll take care of the rest. So it happened as planned. The king decided to meet him. As the king entered the cave, he started a 2-rakat prayer. Allahu Akbar. When he's doing his 2-rakat prayer, when the king sat down waiting for him to finish his prayers, when he finished his prayers, he stood up and started another 2-rakat prayer. The king is waiting and also getting impressed that he didn't even pay attention to me, and he's praying and he's so involved in his prayers. He waited, and after he finished his 2nd rakat, he did the 3rd prayer, 2-rakat prayer, and then the 4th 2-rakat prayer. Now this minister was getting worried that something is going wrong. He should stop, but he kept praying, and then once he was done, he turned to the king and greeted the king, and then they decided to talk. And the king, when he was leaving, the king became even more and more impressed, and the king was really impressed with this person. And when the king was leaving, the king asked him, so every time I meet an Arif, I meet a Zahid, I ask him that I want to fulfill a wish of his. So what is your wish? Do you have any wish? He said, no, I don't have any wish. And the king said, I want to fulfill a wish of yours. Anything you want. Just name it. And he said, no, I don't need anything. And the minister became even more worried. He's spoiling the whole plan. And he said, you really don't want anything? The king is willing to give you whatever you want, just name it. He said, no, I don't want anything. And the king stands up and decides to leave, and the minister looks at him, you don't have to ask for anything. He says, no, I don't want anything from the king. And the king leaves, even more impressed. This person then comes back to his old friend, and he said, what did you do? You spoiled your whole 6 months of effort. What happened? He said, no, I did not waste anything. Then when the king walked in the cave, and I started my 2-rakat prayers, when I put my head in sajda, at that time a thought occurred to my mind the thought occurred that for the last 6 months, I have been doing sajda for the sake of the king. I've been worshipping, my niyat was the king, and if this fake ibadat has so much power that it was able to pull the king from his palace to my cave, imagine what would have happened if I had been worshipping for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad bulantar salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
That thought came to my mind. Imagine if I had been worshipping for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How powerful that ibadat would be. I found my true love.
Subhanallah.
I have found what I wanted. I don't need to marry the king's daughter. It is only when we have the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our intentions will get pure. If we don't have that ma'rifah, no matter how hard you strive, if you love this world, a teacher is always going to work for the sake of this dunya if he loves this dunya. His actions, his deeds will be for the sake of Allah only and only when the hereafter and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more valuable for him. And that will come when you will learn, when you will know how lowly this dunya is, when you will know why this dunya was created. Only then you realize that this dunya is not my destination, it is only a means to an end. Only then that will change. For in the tradition we have the saying of the Ulama, dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. Dunya is the prison of a mu'min and the paradise of a kafir. You can find happiness in this dunya. There is no absolute happiness in this dunya. This dunya has been created in such a way that there are problems. It is surrounded with problems in this dunya. And those who do not know the purpose behind that will again object to Allah's creation. Why did Allah create this world like this? Our youths are faced with this doubt. If Allah is so merciful, why is there pain and suffering in this universe? We face this question. Our youths have to answer this question. Allah is merciful, right? So then why is there pain and suffering in this universe? Wouldn't this world be a much better place if there was no pain and suffering?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
It would be a much better place. Imagine this world, there's no pain, nobody could get tortured.
No.
If there is no pain and suffering, you can never get tortured. Right? Imagine if you never felt hunger and thirst. How many people suffer the pangs of hunger at night when they have to go to bed hungry? Imagine a world free from hunger. Imagine a world free from pain. The world would become
much better.
Much better. Really? No. Why not? What would happen if this dunya suddenly for the next 1 week Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take away pain and suffering? What would happen?
They forget the creation.
What would happen?
Everybody will just relax and be complacent.
Is that not good? Everybody will relax.
They forget God.
They will forget God. How? Because you can argue it's a good answer. They might forget God. That is one of the reasons why you have pain and suffering, definitely. But even a more serious thing will happen. That is a very serious thing, forgetting God. But when there is no feeling of pain and suffering, and if you're walking on the street and you accidentally stepped on a piece of nail or a piece of glass, would you even know?
No.
If you're sleeping and a snake came and bit you, would you know? If you're having a toothache, if you're having an infection, if your kidneys are going bad, would you know? Would you even know something is wrong in your body?
Subhanallah.
No.
Subhanallah. No.
What will happen then? We will die before going to the doctor. If we are bitten by an insect, when our kidney, why do you go to the doctor? Or when do you go to the doctor? When you feel pain. Pain is the system to tell you that there is something wrong in the body.
Subhanallah.
In other words, if you don't have fire alarms here, but in US and Canada we have fire alarms in homes. And the fire alarm goes on when there is a fire. Right? So going out is a pain. It's not easy to leave the house, but if we turn off all the fire alarms, what would happen? The fire would burn the house. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us pain and suffering to make sure that life can exist and continue to exist in this dunya. If there was no pain and suffering, people would die without even knowing, without even consulting the doctor. Doctors would all be out of jobs. You wouldn't know something is wrong, and as a result you would die. And this happens when you have a deadline to meet. And there's a lot of work on your table, and you keep delaying your meals. I'll eat after an hour. Let me just get this task done. And then what happens? Few more hours, and then the hunger kicks in. Is so severe that you have to stand up and go get something to eat. If you never felt that hunger, those who are too greedy would continue to work and work and work. The workaholics would continue to work and work and skip their meals till they would become so weak that their life would be in danger. So by giving us this pain and suffering, so this is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have this sense of pain and suffering. So this is a sign of Allah's mercy, not a sign that He is not merciful.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
So the fact that there is pain and suffering, this was needed for human subsistence on earth.
Subhanallah. Muhammad wa ala bayd Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Wouldn't this dunya, wouldn't the Muslims be better if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished each one of us the moment we committed a sin? The moment a person looks at a non-Muharram, his eyes would be toast. How many blind people would we have then? Everyone.
Only blinds.
Really? No. It would be the opposite. When you put your hand in fire, what happens? It burns. So how many people do you see with burned hands? No one. So if you poke a knife in your eye, it's going to get damaged. How many people do you see? No one. So if we knew that the moment you look at an image that is forbidden to see, your eyes would get hurt. How many people would do that? No one. You wouldn't find it, because the punishment is immediate. If the punishment is immediate, people wouldn't do it, not because of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah.
Because of the fear of the immediate punishment, and that would have no reward, because that is being forced to do something. You will be forced to stay away from sin, not out of choice. It's out of the punishment that you're going to get. The real test, which is the purpose of this creation, to test and see if we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not, was possible only if these punishments were delayed.
Wow.
So when we commit a sin, when we look at an image that is forbidden to see, we are hurting ourselves, we are hurting our eyes. But the result will be shown, will be known after a few years. Or in the hereafter. So by delaying punishments, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fulfilled the purpose of creation, which is testing us. Just to see who obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who does not obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we do the tarbiyat of our children, we have to keep this in mind. One of the biggest challenges today for all parents all over the world is, how do we raise our children as lovers of the Ahlul Bayt? This is the most pressing question in every community. How to do the tarbiyat of our children? We need to understand first and foremost the purpose of our creation, the purpose of their creation, and what tools and techniques Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to do the tarbiyat of his creation. What tools and techniques the Imams and the Holy Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to do the tarbiyah of his nation.
Subhanallah.
If we know those tools, only then we can do the tarbiyah of our children. What is tarbiyah? What do you mean by tarbiyah? When you say you want to do the tarbiyah of our children, what do you mean? What are you trying to accomplish here? You want our children to be obedient to us? Is that tarbiyah?
Right and wrong.
Obedience to Allah. There's a difference between the tarbiyah. Even animals accept tarbiyah. If you do the tarbiyah of an animal, those lions in the circus, they've gone through a process of tarbiyah. Right? So what is the difference between that tarbiyah and the tarbiyah of a human? The tarbiyah of the lion in a circus is that he listens to you at the whip. He knows that if I don't do this, I'm going to be whipped. Some people train and do the tarbiyah of their children like that. Through force. They force their children to do good when they're there, and when they do bad, they're being punished right there and then. So those children will become tarbiyah like an animal. The moment you're not there, they would not be following or doing what they should be doing. The tarbiyat of a human is different than the tarbiyat of an animal. The tarbiyat of a human, your responsibility. There's a verse in the Holy Quran which says that if Allah wished, He would have forced all people to be subservient to Him. But He did not do that. He wants all of us to make the choice out of our own free will.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
Knowing what is good and bad, and then deciding that this is what I'm going to do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the objective that we all should have in mind when we are doing the tarbiyah of our children. That is the objective that the Imams had when they were doing the tarbiyah of their nation, the Prophets had, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had. That is, look at the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is a book of tarbiyah. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did the tarbiyah? What tools did He use? You look at the Holy Quran, we find there are many stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Holy Quran. What is the purpose of these stories? We have so many stories. One of the important requirements of tarbiyah is that we as humans need role models.
Subhanallah.
We need role models. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is establishing role models in the Holy Quran through stories.
Subhanallah.
لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. You have a best model in the life of the Holy Prophet.
Subhanallah.
And the Holy Prophet established the Imams as role models for us.
Subhanallah.
And when we do these Majalis, and in these Majalis we do the zikr, we express and we narrate the fazail of the Ahlul Bayt. The intention behind it is to establish and present them as role models for people. That is why if we finish it, if we do not narrate the fazail of Ahlul Bayt, that component of presenting them as role models will disappear.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
Only when you have someone or you take somebody as a role model that you follow them. We are in need of role models. When was the last time we read an Islamic story to our kids? The other system is also creating role models for them. If your child is more interested in being a Batman and a Superman or a Spider-Man, so they have established them as role models. There's a very strong hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam.
Allahumma salli ala